There is a rule that never appears in public speeches, is never taught in corporate training, and will never be found in motivational quotes hanging on walls. Yet it quietly governs every structure where real power circulates. This rule is never announced. It is perceived. Powerful men don't explain it. They recognize it through behavior, through silence, through how long someone takes to respond, through what they choose not to say. Machiavelli didn't teach speaking less out of morality, but out of survival in the game of power. You may have already felt the effect of this rule without ever being able to name it, that almost imperceptible moment when something shifts in the air. The conversation continues, but respect decreases. Words still flow, but listening shuts down. Doors remain open, yet real access disappears. Nothing was said, but everything was decided. The rule is simple in form and brutal in impact. Never reveal more than necessary about your true intentions. Most people believe power comes from total transparency, unrestricted sincerity, from the idea that being completely open builds trust. But men who truly lead understand something different. They know premature exposure doesn't create trust, it creates vulnerability. The moment your intentions become too clear, the world begins to react against them. Some will try to block you. Others will try to copy you. Many will pretend to support you while silently adjusting their strategies in opposition to yours. And you rarely notice the exact moment when you stop leading the game and start merely responding to it. The powerful man observes before he acts. He listens more than he speaks. He allows others to fully reveal themselves while keeping essential parts of himself inaccessible. Not out of fear, not out of arrogance, but out of strategic understanding of human nature. This is not manipulation. It is self-control elevated to the level of art. Notice how the most influential individuals rarely over-explain. They don't excessively justify their decisions. They don't feel urgency to be understood by everyone. They know that anyone who constantly needs to be understood is already in a fragile position. There is a profound difference between communication and exposure. Communication builds presence and direction. Exposure dissolves authority. And here's something almost no one notices. When you talk too much about your plans, you create external expectations. Expectations generate pressure. Pressure creates interference. Interference forces premature adjustments, and premature adjustments weaken decisions that were still maturing. Powerful men avoid this cycle by maintaining a silent zone around themselves, a space where not everything is accessible, not everything is explained, not everything is open to negotiation. This silence is not empty. It is charged with contained intention. Most people break this rule for one simple reason: fear. Fear of seeming distant, fear of being misunderstood, fear of losing connection, fear of being seen as cold, calculating, or arrogant. But men who lead understand that respect comes before closeness. Without respect, all closeness turns into invasion. Observe how truly powerful people rarely defend themselves in public, rarely engage in unnecessary arguments, rarely try to convince those who have already decided not to understand. They know that excessive defense reveals more than it protects. They let time reveal what needed to be said. While others waste energy explaining, they preserve energy deciding. There is a specific moment when this rule becomes decisive. It's when you realize you're being tested, not through direct confrontation, but through micro-provocations, subtle interruptions, veiled disrespect, seemingly innocent questions designed to extract reactions. Those who react too much lose. Those who justify themselves concede. Those who over-explain expose themselves. The powerful man maintains composure not because he's indifferent, but because he understands the invisible game being played. He knows every reaction is information, and information is currency. When you control what you reveal, you control how you are perceived. When you control perception, you control the space you occupy. When you control the space, you control the rhythm of the interaction. That is the silent rule. And it is never broken without cost. If you look back honestly, you'll realize many moments when you lost strength weren't when you failed, but when you spoke too much. When you tried to explain yourself to those who didn't need to understand. When you revealed intentions to those who didn't need to know. When you sought validation instead of position. Powerful men learn this lesson early. or they learn it through pain. Some learn by observing. Others learn by being discarded after overexposing themselves. When they finally learn, something shifts deeply. The tone of conversations changes. The way they are treated changes. The speed of negotiations changes. The world around them adjusts, because well-placed silence carries more weight than long speeches. Firm presence communicates more than emotional justifications. There's a reason ancient leaders spoke little in public and much in controlled environments. There's a reason historical strategists valued calculated ambiguity. There's a reason men who truly rule rarely reveal their next move. Silence creates space, and space is power. If this content resonated with you, it's not by accident. Something within you already sensed this rule, even if you never managed to put it into words. Perhaps you've already felt the cost of ignoring it. Perhaps you're ready to integrate it consciously. This channel doesn't exist for surface-level entertainment. It exists to reveal patterns operating beneath the surface, where real decisions are shaped before they become visible. If you want to continue understanding how power truly works, without slogans, without empty promises, without comforting illusions, only truths few dare to face, subscribe. Not as someone following a channel, but as someone choosing to observe the world through different eyes. Activate the bell not for notifications, but as a silent reminder that every time you return here, something in your perception recalibrates. Because in the end, the man who masters silence doesn't need to prove anything. He doesn't convince, he doesn't explain. He remains. He remains, and that is precisely what unsettles. Because the world is addicted to noise, to over-explanation, to the almost compulsive need to be seen, heard, and validated. When someone doesn't enter that game, something breaks in the invisible dynamics of power. People don't know where to place you, and when they don't know where to place you, they begin to observe you more carefully. Powerful men understand that predictability is a weakness disguised as comfort. When everyone knows exactly how you react, what you think, and what you intend, you become manageable, manipulable, anticipatable. Silence breaks predictability. It creates a field of controlled uncertainty. Do not confuse this with emotional coldness. The powerful man feels deeply, but he chooses with surgical precision when and with whom to reveal those layers. He doesn't turn emotions into public spectacle. He turns them into internal fuel. There's a reason that in the most competitive environments in the world, those who speak less are often listened to more. Every word carries weight because it isn't wasted. While many reveal everything hoping to create closeness, the powerful man allows others to project. And projection is a powerful tool. People begin filling your silence with their own expectations, fears, and assumptions. And almost always, they reveal more about themselves than you ever would by speaking. This is a critical shift, because power isn't only what you do, it's what others believe you're capable of doing. When you speak too much, you limit that belief. When you stay silent at the right moment, you expand it. There is a point in every conversation where less becomes more, where the absence of response creates more impact than any argument. Where a steady gaze, a conscious pause, and the choice not to react automatically reposition you. That point separates those who live reacting from those who quietly lead. Most never reach it because they confuse power with imposition. They think being firm means being aggressive, that leadership is verbal dominance, that respect is earned through intensity. But powerful men know the strongest presence is the one that doesn't need to announce itself. They don't explain their vision to everyone. They don't ask permission to exist. They don't seek collective approval. They become an axis. And the world organizes itself around axes, not noise. Perhaps now you're realizing something uncomfortable, that many times you lost ground. It wasn't because you lacked ability, but because you lacked strategic silence. Because you revealed too much to people who hadn't earned access. Because you tried to be understood by those only measuring your strength. Because you confused openness with safety. This silent rule doesn't demand that you change who you are. It demands that you become more selective about who has access to who you are. And that changes everything. How you enter a room, how you handle difficult conversations, how you respond to provocation, even how time seems to move around you. Because when you don't rush to speak, The world slows down to listen. Now here's the part few accept. When you start applying this rule, some people pull away. Others become uncomfortable. Some try provoking reactions that used to work. That's the old system testing whether you've really changed. This is the final test. If you give in, everything returns to normal. If you hold the silence, the game levels up, and you begin to notice something curious. Fewer words, more control. Less exposure, more influence. Less explanation, more authority. Not because you became someone else, but because you stopped diluting yourself. If this content feels not just interesting but necessary, stay, subscribe, return, observe, apply. Because some rules are never taught out loud, and now you know one of them.